Well, thank you, everybody. It's great to see you all. I hope you're having a great afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be with you and to be a part of this conversation with Barbara Jatta, who we welcome back. Barbara Jatta, we welcome back to the University of Notre Dame. We're so grateful. You know, the theme of this year's Notre Dame Forum is Cultivating Hope. Each year we have a theme, and what we try to do is spark a campus-wide conversation around that theme. And this year's theme is Cultivating Hope. And today we explore how the arts, and in particular museums, serve as those sources, as powerful instruments of hope and of connection and of faith. In fact, during her 2021 Keeley Lecture on behalf of the Nanovic Institute here on campus at Notre Dame, Dr. Jatta spoke about the beauty that leads to faith. And I might add hope to that as well. Today's conversation is especially important because it's part of our Sesquicentennial Celebration of the Art Museum here at Notre Dame. You might know that the connection between the Vatican and our art museum goes back quite a ways, 150 years. That connection began when Notre Dame founder, Father Edward Sorin, invited Vatican artist Luigi Gregori to campus to serve as artist in residence and also director of our art department. And that single invitation really has shaped Notre Dame's visual identity. If you've been through our main building, you've seen some of Gregori's work. If you've been in the Basilica, you've seen some of Gregori's work. So given this long history of connection, it's really a distinct honor to welcome Barbara Jatta back to Notre Dame. As you know, Barbara is director of the Vatican Museums, and she's no stranger to our community. She has visited our campus several times in the past, and we count her as one wonderful member of our Notre Dame family because we were able to bestow on her, honored to bestow on her, an honorary degree back in 2024. So thank you, Barbara, for joining us here, for coming back to Notre Dame. We're so grateful to count you as a member of our family, our Notre Dame family. And the moderator of today's discussion is Heather Hyde Minor. And Heather is R.L. Canala Professor of Art History here at Notre Dame. Heather specializes in the artistic and intellectual culture of early modern Italy. From 2017 to 2020, she served as academic director of Notre Dame Rome. Her deep scholarship and passion for the intersection of art and history really make her the perfect person to lead us in today's exploration together with Barbara. So with no further ado, please join me in welcoming Heather Hyde Minor and Barbara Jatta to the stage.
Thank you so much, Father Dowd, and thanks to all of you for being here today on this very beautiful day when it might be much more tempting to be outdoors or elsewhere than here. And I also want to give a special welcome to the students who are here today at this very, very busy time of the year to join us in this wonderful conversation. So I'm going to introduce Barbara very briefly, and then we're going to start a conversation, the two of us together. But because we want it to be a dynamic conversation and we want to hear from you and your questions as well, you'll see that on the screens, yes? No. Yes, the screens around the room, there will be QR codes, and so you can scan those and type in a question, and we'll try to ask as many of those as possible at the end of our time together. So thanks again to all of you for being here, and thanks to Father Dowd. I can think of no better topic today for a conversation at this particular time and on this particular day here together with Barbara than to think about hope, the topic of this year's Notre Dame firm. The Epistle of the Hebrews tells us that hope is the anchor of the soul. It's the thing that keeps us tethered. It's the thing that allows us to make it through the waves and the storms, for us to not go off course. And so I can think of no better theme or topic for us to think about together with Barbara. It's my enormous delight, very, very special pleasure to introduce Barbara Jatta to you here today. She is the director of the Vatican Museums, a position to which she was appointed in 2017 by Pope Francis. That is a job, and I'm a humble art historian, so facts and figures, numbers are not always in my wheelhouse, but I jotted down a couple of them this morning thinking about this. That job entails overseeing approximately 70,000 works of art, among them the Sistine Chapel, a painting by Leonardo da Vinci, a number of Raphaels, and the list goes on and on. This is not that we're keeping count, but this is twice the size of the collection at the Louvre Museum, so truly an enormous, and very rich collection. Together with 800 colleagues who Barbara supervises, everything from restorers to museum guards to curators, they welcome about 7 million visitors per year to the museums. So I think this gives you a sense of the enormous scope of the responsibilities that Barbara has. You can read much more about her, and I'm sure you have, everywhere from the Wall Street Journal to Vogue magazine. So I will not spend time recounting her many spectacular accomplishments, although I could do that. Instead, today is just a brief introduction. I thought instead that I would talk about one of the first times I remember meeting Barbara. I'm not going to say how many years ago this was. We were talking about this with Father Dow before we came in here. She said a number, and I said, no, we're not going to talk about that number. I remember as a student, as a graduate student, in the Vatican Library, this kind of holiest of holies for scholars, this collection created by the popes, not for their personal collection, but to encourage scholarship already in the Renaissance, working in the Vatican Library and having the sense that there was something important for my dissertation research that was in this mysterious place called the Gabinetto della Grafica in the Vatican Library. And Barbara was the chief of this collection of graphic art, so works on photographs, prints, drawings, things that aren't part of books that are in the library. And that was the collection she ran before going to the Vatican Museums. And so Barbara generously invited me to come look at this thing I needed to see for my research. Not only did she do that, but after I had seen it, she invited me to come to her office and talk to her about what I saw and what I thought and what she saw and what she thought.
Remember.
I don't remember. It was a huge copper plate for something to put into this Gregori book. And not only that, she opened up behind her this enormous 17th century book cabinet that has been in that space for a very long time, opened it up, and in it was a coffee machine,
You're right.
with these little tiny porcelain cups. So this is all to say that Barbara is not only a great friend and a great encourager of scholars, no matter what their age or stage of scholarship that they may be in, but a person with real energy, curiosity, a desire to preserve and protect a collection, but also to make it known and used, and a kind of special warmth and a kind of touch, human touch, that we don't often find joined together with someone with such a rich knowledge, such a true scholar, also such great warmth, kindness, curiosity, energy, all in one human being. And so the idea of that experience stuck with me very much that day as someone first starting off, and continues to stick with me to this day as a kind of model of how to encourage the future of scholarship, of interest in collections and museums and many other things. So please join me in welcoming Barbara back to Notre Dame and give her a round of applause. So, as I said, I thought we would start with a couple of questions and see where our conversation we'll see where it goes, see where our conversation leads us, and where it goes. So, this has been an unusual or distinctive, we might say, year for you and the museums. So, today is April 21st. So, it was 1 year ago today that Pope Francis died. So after that time, Pope Leo elected on May 8th, followed by a jubilee. Pope Leo elected in the Sistine Chapel, which is many things, also part of the tremendous patrimony that Barbara oversees. So I guess my first question is, tell us what it's like to live history as you did over the last 365 days of year, from the death of Francis, the conclave, the jubilee, all these things packed into 1 year.
First of all, I'm honored to be here. And I think the friendship that links me to Notre Dame and to this place, maybe we can go later on. I want to answer to your question before, but really there is a very strong link to this place and to this university. It has been a very, very interesting year. Interesting is reductive, as to say. You were talking about hope, and the Jubilee of 2025 was devoted to hope. So everything we planned for this great year, of course, in the museums, but in the entire Vatican City State, in the entire Holy See, was with this. So I like that you are following, because it's one of the important virtues, and it is one of the virtues that you don't see very much, because faith, you can show that your faith. Charity, you can even show charity. Hope is something very intimate. So it was very difficult for us to pass the message of a jubilee of the hope in terms of but hope helped us very much in this past year, because of course we had we started the year of course with the opening of the Jubilee year, with opening all the Holy Door. We are part. The museum is part of the Holy See life in totally sense, because of course the museum in the Basilica, and if the Basilica, we had to deal with Cardinal Gambetti, which is the Archbishop of the Basilica, to deal with all the people that wanted to pass the Holy Door and to make the Jubilee, and the ones that were coming out from the museum in the square and in the Basilica. So we really planned in a management way how to deal with the 40 million people plus the 7 million of our. So it was really a challenge, and we made in the months before a lot of meetings with the Cardinal Gambetti and the staff, and our staff, just to deal with even with the security, so with the guards and the Swiss guards, and also with the gendarmerie of the Vatican. Then suddenly, very, very in February, we have decided to have a jubilee even devoted to art historians and artists. Not only artists, but all the people who are involved, because the jubilee, you probably know, there are many categories of jubilees, and all over the year there were almost 300 different categories of people, of professions, of or typology that were coming to make the Jubilee of category. And so I said to myself, why don't we do a Jubilee of artists, but not only of artists, also for people like us, like professors in university, like curators of museums. And so I invited some people in our field, in a wide sense. So I invited the director of the National Gallery in London, the director of the National Gallery in Washington, several professors of university, and other on the date of people from the galleries and different people and artists, of course, to be together to think how we can use this hope and our work to a better work, and we together with Cardinal de Tolentino, which is the cardinal of the culture, of the Dicastery of the Culture and Education. You might have contacts, of course, with him. We have decided to have a statement in which we, as Catholics, we as artists, as people related with the work of art, in a wide sense, artists and artisan, we perform the idea that we want to go on and we want to testify our attention in our work to our faith, to our values, our spiritual and Christian values. And we did that on the day, on a special day, which is the day of the artist, which is the birthday of Beato Angelico, the 18th of February. In fact, for several reasons, we did it before, but it was the day in which we organized all the symposium in the Vatican Museums, in which Pope Francis went to the hospital. And so it was a very striking day, but in the same day, everything happened, and in the same day, from the hospital, he nominated a new president, a new cardinal of the Vatican City State. So directed the person to whom I refer as director of the Vatican Museum in the governorate of the Vatican City State, not a new cardinal, but a nun, a wonderful person, a wonderful and incredible person, Suor Raffaella Petrini, that he named from the hospital in a very complex situation. So we were happy, we were sad, we were worried because, of course, and this has to be because Cardinal Verges was finishing the cardinal president at that moment, that is a Spanish cardinal, was turning 80 on the 1st of March. So this has to be done on 1st of March. So to cut a long story short, he was in the hospital and he came back, but we had this passage, crucial passage. It's like changing the president of Notre Dame, or even more for us, because so it was a big change, not because in those days Pope Francis seems to not able to survive. And then March went on, and then April 21st, and today there will be, I don't know the hour, but probably now there will be a rosary in St. Mary Major where he's buried. And as Vatican Museum, we deal with all the art, architecture, and beni culturali, so all the artistical and architectonical, archaeological issue of the Holy See, not only of the Vatican Museum collection. We are superintendent, the director of the Vatican Museum, and is superintendent. So I go often in St. John Lateran, St. Mary Major, St. Paul outside as well. So St. Mary Major is really dear to me, and is dear to me since my childhood, because it's a magnificent church where my family used to go for many reasons, but for the devotion specifically of the Salus Populi Romani, the great painting to which Pope Francis was devoted. So it was a terrible time, his illness. It was a very, very sad day a year ago for all of us. And then started a history time for myself. I will never be again a long life to the present Pope, because being director of the Vatican Museum in a time of the conclave is a challenge, but it is something that really you feel to be part of history. And of course, it is the Directorate of Infrastructure of the Governorate and his Sister Petrini that superintend all of that. But for us, that we deal with the Sistine Chapel, we had to take off all the cameras, all the because of course nothing has to be any influence, and we just had a new system few years, a couple of years ago.
So the whole security system has to be taken apart and taken out.
Has to be taken off. And then a lot of things have to be constructed, because you have to have the level of the altar. So there are seven stairs that you have to make a level, all of that, because all the cardinal has to be close to the altar, and so they have to build it, and so you have to take care of the floor. The floor is a Quattrocento, is a 15th century floor, beautiful floor, cosmatesque. So you really have to care of that. And even, of course, we knew that all the eyes of the entire world would have been there. And so we had to make a little restoration everywhere, of course, because we had to take off the plexiglass that is in them. So a lot of issue. And in a certain moment, I was there inside with a ceremony, couple master of ceremony with Sister Petrini and myself, and with the director of the infrastructure. And they said, "Do you remember that there is a little window from nobody knew, because in fact nobody of all of us were at the conclave 14 years before. So of course there is a protocol, there is the official protocol, but then you need, and so really one of the last workers was the only one who was witness of the previous conclave. So he was a master of ceremony himself. But I focused that there was a little window from a staircase arriving to that was in a little door. So nobody thought, and so we closed this door. We closed the window. So it was really. And then it started the conclave, and of course we couldn't. We were working, but we couldn't use cell phones, because all the line were so for a few days we were, of course, so we had to go 2 miles from the Vatican to make a phone call with the cell phones. So it was nice, because we were really feeling to be part. And all the different preview of the cardinals, and of course it happens for me for the first time to know so many cardinals that could become pope. So because of course in my role since almost 10 years I got to know a lot of the Curia, almost all of cardinals of the Curia. But also some cardinals coming from abroad, because they often come and come to the Vatican Museum. So and so it was interesting that of course we were there in all the smokes, the smokes in time. And we were all going like it's the habit of Romans to be there, to want to be part. I remember the election of Benedictus XVI, I was working in the Vatican Library, and I heard the rang bell, and we all ran. And it happens the same thing this time, because it was on the third elections, and so it was the second day, and I heard the bells and singing, and so we all ran. I ran. In fact, I was in the car of the museum, and I was going to a conference in Rome, but I said, I don't like these bells. I think there's something, and so I went back, and it happens to me to arrive because of course the guards knew me, and in the meantime, all people are arriving, and all people running from the smoke is something so beautiful that you really Roman people, not only Roman people, but all the people that are in Rome at this moment run and goes, because it takes a while. It takes almost less than an hour in general. You never know. And I was there, and you little by little you see arriving the people, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. It's something that you never forget. And then in the next days there were other ceremony with the cardinals, and when the name arrived, it was really Pope Leo was really one of the popes or the cardinals that I really didn't know before, because he arrived only 2 years before, and he really never came or officially came to the Vatican Museums. And so, of course, I knew one of the major candidates was Cardinal Tagle, the Philippine cardinal of Propaganda Fide, and I knew him very well. But I saw from Sister Raffaella when he was announced, the smiling of Sister Raffaella, because he was American, because he knew him. They were part of several committees together. So in that moment, I realized that it was a good thing, in a wide sense, because I trust her. I trust her. And so it was really very, very emotional. We were all there, all together, all one next to the other, and it's really feeling to be part of the history. And even the funeral was something very, very touching. So it was really 2 or 3 months of really emotional, and then of course things can be changed. Because of Pope, a Pope is an absolute king, if you want. I cannot say that but this gives you the idea that his will is exactly what we do, and so it could change people. It could change all the charges of Curia when a Pope dies are freezed, and he had to renovate or to confirm all the charges, and so it's but from the smile of Sister Raffaella, as I didn't know him, but I understood that it would have been. And afterwards, speaking with the previous cardinal president of the governorate, that with whom I worked several years, I realized that he was one of 2 or 3 cardinals that really all the congregations of cardinals would have chosen, for the fact that he's a person that knows the Curia, knows the Curia, knows how it's run, the Curia. So all the dicasterios, all the different aspects of the organization of the Holy See, but also knows the dioceses from the world. He was in Peru, but he was in other parts, and then he was called by Pope Francis to be at the head of the dicasteries of the bishops. That meant that for 2 years and more, he knew all the new bishops. He knew all the problems and the good things of the different dioceses. So Pope Leo really, I mean, I'm an artist, I'm not a Vatican politics, but he really knows his work, knows the place where he knows the task, and he knows the cura because he was there since a few years, and so he get to know it. And having a young pope, because he's a young pope, he was so different when we met him, and when I met him, it is so funny because he was so different from the last pope I had the chance to because I served 3 popes this is the 4th pope because I served John Paul II while I was in the library, then Pope Benedictus, then Pope Francis, and the 3 before were people in the age, and even not Pope Benedictus, but Pope John Paul II was quite ill when I presented him several projects during the time I was a curator of prints in the Vatican Library. But Pope Benedictus, of course, he was, and I presented several exhibitions, and he wanted to be the cardinal librarian, not to be pope. Right. What he said even to me when we met. And then Pope Francis, of course, he was strong, but he was weak in the last years. So having a young pope with whom you could see that he's young, he's bright, even if he's a very different personality from Pope Francis, he is something that makes everybody happy, and the loss of Pope Francis was immediately passing to the joy of having him. So really the feelings that we had, and it was not only me. We shared that with other colleagues and other people that I know. It's really a passage, and it's a nonsense passage. Of course, for me today is a special day because a year ago, but in the meantime, Pope Leo is the present and the future, and is such a good choice that the joy arrived. I don't know how to explain.
Okay, I like the joy arrived. I like this. I also like the smile of Sister Raffaella. That has to be a chapter in your memoir or something. I want to ask you a question about art more broadly. And that is the question about, so we have this category of objects that we call art. And that all of us would walk into the Racklin Murphy or another museum and say, we're here to see art, and we recognize these things we're looking at as art. But this is a relatively new category. So for Christians for more than 1,000 years, there was no art. There were objects that I like to think of as pathways to divine. And so or ambassadors somehow of faith. So you were working with or using a painting, a sculpture, whatever it was, as part of a practice of devotion and of faith. Can you say something about how that fits into this work at the museum?
Allora, no doubt that the Vatican Museums are. I was with Joe this morning going around the museum. I realized that in little, the museum wants to have the same mission of the Vatican Museum, because it is a museum a humanistic museum in a wide sense, and it's important for a university to have such a wide range of collections. But I want to point out that the humanistic knowledge and the humanistic different fields or humanities of our collection, of Vatican collections, are part of the mission itself of the Vatican Museum. No doubt that the important aspect of religious art, because our mission is to preserve a patrimony that is, of course, a patrimony of history, of art, but specific of devotion and faith. So this is a very, very important aspect, the devotion and the faith. And even if we have, like here in the museum that I was impressed this morning, we have probably the most important collection of Greek and Roman antiquities. These are not religious,
right.
Christian religious, but popes in Renaissance time collected them to take the legacy of those values, to bring from what they represent in heritage, in history, in devotion, in collecting even those, not to lose the knowledge, the legacy, and the history of the predecessor of Roman Church. And they turn it to Julius II, Sistus IV, and even the popes in Renaissance, in medieval time, and of course in Renaissance time, they collected Greek and Roman, and then later on Egyptian art, Etruscan art, ethnographical from all over the world, just to make bridges with different cultures, just to testify the open-minded that popes were cardinals, bishops, and lay people around them wanted to build the church of. And this is beautiful because it gives you the idea of what is our faith. Even a Greek and Roman statue, even an Egyptian sculpture or an Egyptian object, even an ethnographical object coming from Mexico or from South America or from Asia. Now we open in 2025, we have celebrated 100 years from the missionary exhibition, 100,000 pieces put together in 1925, thanks to Pius XI, an incredible pope that opened also to the wide public the Vatican Museums. So no doubt that in the past, Christian art was part of the life. But from the Renaissance time, but even before, I can say, art was a vehicle to, of course, represent the invisible, that represents spiritual values, but also to testify legacy, knowledge, and wanted to be part of values of different cultures and bring them together to testify the truth in Christian and in Catholic Church, Roman Church.
I
don't know if I explained.
No, I like this
because
very
it's not
much.
my language, so
I like this very much because it also fits into today is another important anniversary. I think for both of us, I speak for both of us. April 21st is it's legendary, but
exactly.
Today is the birthday of Rome. She turns 2,779 years old,
exactly.
I think, even though that's not correct, but that's what Livy tells us, so that's what we celebrate.
Exactly.
And so what you're saying makes me think of this all, there's something about Rome, yes? Say something about that makes all of these different things come together and make sense somehow.
I'm Roman. I was born in Rome, I'm Roman. But Rome, for me, even if, of course, I'm Italian and I'm part of it, but Rome for me is Vatican. Rome for centuries, from Constantino, from when Constantino brought to Constantinople, to Istanbul, the present Istanbul, the kingdom of Rome. Rome stayed in popes. So speaking about Rome and speaking about the birth of Rome, and popes were so so open-minded to understand this important link with the Roman tradition, with Rome, and turn them into Christian art.
Not to cancel, but to collect, to keep
Exactly.
making it bigger.
Julius II wanted, we pretend to have 500 years of museums, even though the real museums in terms of institutional museums were born not in 1506, thanks to Julius II, thanks to the discovery of the Laocoon, these great statues that the Pope bought after sending Michelangelo Buonarroti to see what was the sculpture found on an excavation in one of the 7 hills of Rome. And the rumors of this discovery was that. But really, Julius II collected them, but the institutional as museum is only Benedict XIV in 1756 and then 62, thanks to Clemens XIII. So it was really only in the 18th century that the institution as museum. But popes collected and collection, and it is a similar issue that probably arrives in so many different aspects. So before establishing a museum, the idea of collecting things, collecting in the name of values, in the name of taking and promoting the faith, in the name of sharing values, thanks to images that can tells you much more, because they're much more direct than reading books, and they're much more easily reachable, an image. Of course, we are art historians, and we deal with images. But in the past, the role played by images was so strong, much strong and powerful, so that it's still today, I must say, even, and today with our devices, I don't have my cell phone, but our devices that can reach you with images, and we must learn how to use the devices in a good way, and we tried, because we have to take the good way of these devices that we see as devils sometimes, but in another way they can help us very much. This morning at Mass, I was one of the 3 priests that were celebrating was following the Gospels in the cell phone. I know many priests that are using for pray, so we what I've learned in 20 years in Vatican Library, thanks to popes like Sixtus IV, Sixtus V, Pius XI in 20th century, is that they always look over, always look in the future, always look to what, and always in a very high level. So I'm always say that I'm a very privileged and blessed person because of the work that God decided for me, but also because it gave me the wisdom to understand all of that, and to be part for a portion of my life. And it's not really, I don't know if you understand that it's really not something that I say because I'm here, because I feel that. I feel the privilege of having had the possibility to know so many things, and so many good people that worked for building a better world and the common good.
Excellent. Well, we have time for questions. Yes. Do we? And I do something magical with this. Yes. Okay. I'm looking at this. Oh, okay. Oh, and the font is very big. Okay. So we like this. We don't even need the glasses, Barbara. What encouragement would you give to Catholic universities in the U.S., in the United States, especially Notre Dame, to help them continue a strong commitment to undergraduate and graduate studies in visual art?
Allora, not only in visual art, I am convinced that in any university, in the years I was working in the Vatican Library, and when I graduate, and then I had my master in Sapienza in Rome, in University of Rome, one of the ancient university of Italy. It was founded by Boniface the Eighth, so in 1302. So it's really an old university. I'm convinced that any kind of a university, even if you are doing technology, even if you're doing chemistry or science or medicine, you need to have a very important humanistic background. Of that I'm convinced. So what I can tell you to the students, never forget the humanistic side of your life, even if you will be a businessman, a banker, or whatever, because that will help you to know history, to know who preceded you, to know the heritage of where you come from, or where your ancestors come from, or where your country come from, is so important to be a better person. To be a better person in any field you would like to express your energies, but for that I'm convinced, and I think that this is. I was in for the last 4 years in the Consiglio Amministrazione. It's the board of the Catholic University of Italy in Milan, which has a great tradition of humanistic studies. And I think even now is in business, is in medicine, of course, there is a huge medicine. And I was, my apport to this board was to not forget the humanistic side, not forget and invest in humanistic side, even in your kind of study, in the building where we are, who conceived it and why it was conceived, why is that building has that shape, and why, and what the meaning that this building can tell you with that shape, or so really the humanistic knowledge as a first step to then go wherever you want, in my opinion. I don't know if I answered to the question, yes. And I don't know who posed the question, if you want to say if I answered to it, but I hope you understand what I wanted to say.
Yes. Next question. In your opinion, this is going to be this is a serious question.
Okay.
Is the chapel in the Racklin Murphy a work of art or a sacred space?
I think it's both.
Yes.
I think it's both, of course, like any church. But of course, any church, I don't like when in Italy now there are some churches that you have to pay a ticket to enter in.
Okay, yes.
I'm against that. I mean, it's not depending on me. Sometimes it's depending, unfortunately, from the Minister of Culture, because of this incredible political situation that after 1870, all the possession of the church passed through the superintendents of the Italian government. But of course, the Italian government does many things to preserve them. But in the meantime, no doubt that a church for me, as person, is first of all a sacred place. But in the meantime, of course, I look about art, and I think that art can help even lay people, non-Catholic, non-Christian people, to be closer to God, to inspire values, spiritual values, and so it's very important that we still take care of the churches. I tell you a story now. I think about that. The prefect of the Apostolic Archive is a new Augustinian,
Yes, yes.
wonderful man.
Yes.
He was appointed before Pope Leo,
Yes.
3 years ago, I think, and he's a young Augustinian man, priest, very, very bright and intelligent, and very in his work as I know from the Cardinal Archbishop, the Cardinal Librarian and Archivist that Monsignor Zani, that was it was his choice, and we were talking because he was in the board of Cattolica. So on the train we were speaking of the fact that he was looking for a person, a right person to substitute the previous one, and he chose really a very, very good man for running the secret archives, the Apostolic Archive, which held all the Holy See archives. So it's a very important position, and he's also a very cultivated man, a very artistically, because he lives in Santa Prisca, which is one of the churches of Aventine Hill, and he came to me once and he said to me, I would like in Genazzano, because Pope Leo went to Genazzano as one of the first early when he was elected, because he was very young Augustinian priest in Genazzano. So he showed me a picture when Pope Leo was very young there. And in Genazzano, in the altar of the Virgin of Buon Consiglio, there are several popes that were important for the Virgin Mary of Buon Consiglio, and in the century they depict Urban VIII. Then they depicted also, I don't remember which other pope, and then John Paul II. But there is a space left, so he asked me, Barbara, could you find me a painter that could complete the church with a fresco? And I immediately had it, because we in the restoration lab we have some restorers that are also decorative, and they teach our interns and our interns how to make a fresco, because we don't want to lose this tradition. And so he was there when I gave to Sister Raffaella. I don't remember when, a Virgin Mary made by the students, by the interns. So he said to me, he said, this teacher could be the right person. So we made a project. We went to Pope Leo and presented to him. He approved the project, but then we had to pass to Italy because the church belonged to Italy, so to the Sovrintendenza de Lazio. Okay. So of Lazio region, which is the region of Rome. So he said to me, even if I'm part of the project, but he was the promoter, and the Augustinians are the promoter, because the church are depending on them. And so he said to me, oh, please, Barbara, can you accompany me to the Sovrintendente? And of course, I knew the Sovrintendente, so she's a she, so she was very nice, and she approved. And when I was in New York, he sent it to me. Padre Rocco Ronzani, the prefect of the archive, sent me a message with a letter of approval. So it will be done soon. Hopefully, because on the 8th of May, the Pope will go to Pompeii, because the 8th of May is the Madonna in Pompeii. And even with Pompeii, we have a lot of relations, because we found a painting by Mantegna in the Pinacoteca in Pompeii, and we have restored it, and we have established that is a real Mantegna, and it was a lost Mantegna from Naples. And the Archbishop in charge of the sanctuary of Pompeii, we became very, very close, and finally he decided to have a painting gallery in the sanctuary devoted to Virgin Mary, and this is a pick. Of course, the Mantegna is a pick, but we helped him to choose the other paintings, and we helped as Vatican Museum to make the painting gallery, to build with the climate system, with the lighting, with everything, and he's so happy that the Pope decided to go there for the first anniversary. So I don't know if you answered to the question. Sorry,
Yes.
I'm going.
Yes, I have one last question,
Okay.
and it's a very short question. I think I think I have an idea of the answer, but I'm not sure. This will never happen. There's some kind of terrible event that takes place, a natural disaster. You can save one thing from the museum. What would it be? What would you pick?
I would pick a person.
Okay.
A staff person.
You would pick a staff. Okay, fantastic.
I will pick people, because really what I learned in that the people are most important than any work of art.
Fantastic.
Sorry.
Fantastic.
Sorry to answer that.
Please join me in thanking one more time Barbara. And then Father Bob Dow will return.
I'm back on stage. And Barbara, we are so grateful that you would visit us again. We are so grateful for your friendship and all that you do at Vatican Museums. And just as a token of our appreciation.
Can I stand?
Yes, if you'd like.
No, I don't want you to stand.
A token of our appreciation, in a special way, the appreciation of the Racklin Murphy Museum Advisory Council. I want to present to you this bronze by Father Anthony Lauk, who was a Holy Cross priest and artist here at Notre Dame. I think he directed the museum between 1960 and 1967. This bronze of Cardinal Newman.
Ooh,
so
I'm very...
Thank you very much. And we're so grateful. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a bit heavy.
Bellissimo.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm very close to Cardinal Newman for many reasons. So
beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
And he's the same artist of the seminary stained glasses.
Yes, that's the same artist,
of this morning.
Father Lauk.
Okay,
Yes.
Beautiful.
But thank you.
Very dear to me. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Truly grateful, Heather. Thank you for the wonderful conversation with Barbara. And I hope you all have a great afternoon, a great evening. Thank you.